Hello everyone, myself Gargi Roy. I am the Assistant Professor of Electrical Engineering Department of JIS College of Engineering. Today I am going to share the views of illumination engineering subject, which is generally taught in the 7th semester of final year BTech Electrical, as well as it is taught in the Diploma Electrical 5th semester of 3rd year syllabus. Today's topics are based on photometry and terms related to the photometry. In my previous lectures, I have discussed about illumination, its unit, what is luminous flux, luminous intensity, how much lux is required in different purposes, and so on. Photometry means the measurement of light distribution. So, for measurement the light distribution, some things needed like solid angle, plane angle. So today's topics are solid angle and plane angle, isolux diagram, etc. Course objective and course outcome, they are very important for each lecture of any course. So I am repeating it again. To provide an introduction to the fundamentals of illumination engineering and architectural lighting design, to impart lighting fundamentals, measurement and technology and their applications in the analysis and design of architectural lighting design. Next, course outcomes. Understand the need of good illumination and learning the physics behind various luminous sources, other terms and unit. Students will be able to identify the criteria for the selection of lamps and lighting system for an indoor and outdoor space. They can perform calculations on photometric performance of light sources and luminaires for lighting design. They can evaluate different types of lighting designs and applications. Course overview: plane angle, solid angle, photoelectric cell, isolux diagram. First, plane angle. Plane angle may be defined as when two straight lines laying on the same plane and meet a point O. They will be the angle between the lines at meeting point. Here O is the meeting point and AOB is the plane angle and its unit is radians. So plane angle equal to arc by radians because the unit is radians. Next, solid angle. The solid angle has defined an angle which is subtended at a point in space by an area. In case of plane angle, the area is enclosed by two lines, but in case of solid angle, the area is enclosed by lines laying on this surface and meeting at a point. Solid angle is represented as omega. So omega equal to area by radius square. That means A by R square. Now, solid angle of a sphere. So here we can consider that a point source is present and energy is radiated out in all directions. Energy means light energy, and any distance r is the radius. We imagine a spherical surface to be constructed and the lines of flux will cross area and forming a cone. Now the surface area of the sphere is 4 pi r square and total solid angle subtended by the points will be omega equal to 4 pi r square by r square because area by radius square. So omega equal to 4 pi. So this is the largest solid angle of a sphere when it is subtended by the points. Next, very important terms, relation between plane angle and solid angle. Sometimes in your semester question, it is asked that build up the relationship between plane angle and solid angle. So here consider a curved surface of spherical segment ABC of height h and radius r. Surface area of segment ABC is 2 pi rh. Now h equal to BD and BD equal to OB minus OD, right? So OB equal to R and OD equal to R minus R into cos theta by 2, because here theta by 2 angle is present and OD, the horizontal component of OD is cos theta by 2. So H equal to R into R minus cos theta by 2 because R is common here. So surface area of segment ABC equal to 2 pi RH, and we'll put the value of H in the equation. So it will be 2 pi R square into 1 minus cos theta by 2. Now solid angle omega equal to surface area by radius square. Surface area equal to 2 pi R square into 1 minus cos theta by 2, and radius square means R square. So R square cancel. So omega equal to 2 pi into 1 minus cos theta by 2. So this is the relation between plane angle and solid angle. Next, I am going to the photometer. What is photometer? Photometer is an instrument that measures the strength of electromagnetic radiation in the range from ultraviolet to infrared, including the visible spectrum. All of you know the range of visible spectrum. Generally, it is 400 to 780 nanometer. Now, principle of photometers. Most photometers detect the light with photoresistors, photodiodes, and photomultipliers. To analyze the light, the photometer may measure the light after it has passed through a filter or through a monochromator for determination and defined wavelengths or for analysis of the spectral distribution of the light. Photometers measure illuminance, irradiance, light absorption, scattering of light, reflection of light, fluorescence, phosphorescence, luminescence. Next, type of photometer. Generally, two types of photometer are used in illumination engineering. First one is bench photometer. It measures CP of a lamp. CP means candle power. It is the unit of luminous intensity. It measures CP of a lamp in compared with that of a lamp whose CP is known by producing equal levels. And another photometer is radial photometer or polar curve photometer. It is used to find out the candelar distribution or polar curve of a light fitting. Now, photoelectric cell. One method for the direct measurement of illumination depends on the employment of the photoelectric effect, and for this purpose a photoelectric cell is used. This method of measurement falls into the category of physical, not visual photometry. So here we can see a picture where a photoelectric cell is present, where emitter and collector is seen. Intensity of incident light enters. This is cathode and this is anode. Here a battery is present, and by this circuit we can get the value of current from this microammeter. Next, types of photoelectric cell. First one is photoemissive cell, second one is photovoltaic cell, and third one is the photoconductive cells. First, photoemissive cell. Photoemissive cell depends on the fact that certain surfaces, those composed of the alkali metals and their oxides, that is cesium, potassium, etc., emit electrons when light falls upon them. Okay. Next, if a surface coated with such a material forms the cathode or negative electrode in a evacuated glass envelope, then the emitted electrons may be collected by an anode held at a positive potential with respect to this cathode. A photoelectric current may flow in an external circuit in which there is a galvanometer to record the current. It is found that the current is directly proportional to the illumination of the cathode. So here you can see cathode anode is present, light is incident upon the cathode, and a photoemissive cell is present here, and a galvanometer is connected to record the current. So current is directly proportional to the illumination of the cathode. Thus, by using a standard source at a fixed distance from the cathode, the galvanometer scale may be calibrated directly in lakhs or any convenient units of illumination. This type of cell requires an external source of power to provide the potential difference across it, and is thus not suitable for an instrument of a small portable nature. Next, photovoltaic cell. Photovoltaic cell is widely used where great accuracy is not required, that is in measuring illumination level in workrooms, offices, etc., or in photographic work. In this type, there is a layer of semiconducting material in contact with the metal base with an insulating barrier layer between them. Photovoltaic cells are in fact frequently referred to as barrier layer cells. Suitable materials are copper, cuprous oxide, or iron and its selenium compounds. When light falls on the cell, an EMF is set up across the barrier layer and drives a current through an external circuit containing a galvanometer, which may be directly calibrated in lux. An added advantage of this type is that the response to light of different wavelengths is close to that of the human. Next, photoconductive cell. The photoconductive type, less commonly used in the past, consists of a light-sensitive surface in which electrons are freed. When light falls upon it, although they do not escape from the surface as in the photoemissive type. These freed electrons merely serve to lower the electrical resistances of the circuit in which the cell is connected so that a higher current may pass. The increase in current being dependent on the increase in the illumination. This type, like the photoemissive type, requires an external source of power. Very important term for photometry is distribution photometry. Distribution photometry assists in finding out the variation of luminous intensity around a lighting fitting so that polar curves and other diagrams for the fitting can be obtained, and also the performance of the fitting is studied. In my previous lecture, I have discussed about the polar curve. Now, following points are important for proper distribution photometry. The temperature of the test area should be kept stable, since the output flux of some sources like fluorescent tubes depends upon the temperature and the surroundings. Only that light which is measured should be allowed to reach the photocell. Optical path should be made sufficiently long so that the inverse square law may be applied with a reasonable degree of accuracy. Here we can see two graphs. First one is degrees from beam axis and luminous intensity in candela. Okay. And the next one is the figure of a polar curve. Next, isolux diagram. It is specified that the distribution of the illuminance of a visual surface. Points with the same illuminance are connected to each other by means of curve. That means isolux lines. The luminaire is located vertically above the drawing layer at the mounting height h above the coordinate origin. Depending on the luminaire type, the mounting height h or the appropriate pole height h is specified. The light point interval is approximately twice the distance at which the isolux line, which belongs to half of the value of the desired minimum illuminance, runs. Example, in the isolux diagram shown here, 0.5 lux lines runs laterally at a distance of 15 meter from the coordinate origin. If a path is to be illuminated, E minimum less than greater than equal to 1 lux, then light point spacing of approx 30 meter must be selected. In case of luminaires with rotationally symmetrical line distribution, the resulting isolux lines are concentric circles. Okay. So these are the today's topic, and this slide consists of some references of some web links and books. Okay. Thank you for watching my video.